I didn't recognize these flayed racks of flesh. Their scent was vampiric. They gnawed upon their victim's carcass like dogs.
Welcome to a Soul Reaver 1 Remastered MAD MAN review. Soul Reaver 2 Remastered is gonna be reviewed soon too. No spoilers for the second game in the comment section, please. Took me around 8 hours to finish the first game, but I didn't explore and collect glyphs. Only a few. How to approach reviewing the game from 1999 in 2024 though? There's the factor of a remaster too and how that's done. So I've decided to review the game from a 2024 perspective to see how it holds up today, considering the updated textures. It's not flattering for such a game to be reviewed from a modern perspective, but the other way around would be to put myself in 1999 in my head and review it from that perspective, which is impossible for me. Thought about giving old games a try to review them on the channel, and one problem in particular hit me. 2D games translate well for the most part to modern gaming, but 3D games from that PlayStation 1 era are very rough today because 3D gaming has come a long way in graphics, animations, environments and gameplay mechanics. It's understandable because at that time games were innovative as heck due to 3D being a new thing, so they were pushing the boundaries for that period constantly and paved the way for some phenomenal games of today. But it was a long time ago, and gameplay wise it was rough playing Soul Reaver, no matter how much I loved it back then and how much I love Legacy of Kain series. Some things just don't age well. First let's talk a bit about the remaster, you fanged bastards. It's so-so. Technical issues like crashes happen from time to time, which raises the progress to a degree, so then the player needs to travel back and redo some of the stuff. It can be annoying as heck. Sound effects weren't improved. Gameplay could have been improved and polished way more. Raziel and Kain look great with updated textures, and overall Remaster is a significant improvement over the original, especially in the anti-aliasing department, but I think they could have improved environments way more. Music, however fantastic it still is, has abrupt tune changes that could have been ironed out too. I'm not happy with the remaster, much more should have been done. So let's jump into Soul Reaver 2024 review. Story-wise, it's really good. Thankfully I didn't remember the story anymore, so it was like playing the game for the first time. Kain is such a fantastic antagonist and Raziel cool protagonist. Whole story of Nosgoth is intriguing. Vampires and humans battling it out, Raziel surpassing Kain, after which Kain destroys him. Present devastated Nosgoth, clans, history. Raziel progressively uncovering what has Kain done to this world and why is interesting all the way. Then seeing what has become of Raziel's brothers and their clans is as interesting as is the Kain story. Constant thirst for answers is what drives the story. I loved it. However, the game ends on a cliffhanger and there are some unresolved things like why did the Soul Reaver sword break, which I'm assuming are all gonna be answered in the sequel. Can't wait to play the sequel just because of the story. And Kain and Raziel voice acting is still really good, unlike others that are hit and miss.
Prodigal son, there is no returning for you, Raziel.
Zephan, your visage becomes you. It's an appropriate reflection of your soul.
World of Nosgoth is nicely structured by being divided through clans led by Raziel's brothers. Each location has its own landmarks and textures that relate to the residing clan, so there is enough distinction even through old textures. Locations are connected to one another, which gives the world a cohesive meaning. It's kinda interesting because there is a feeling of openness even though there isn't one, mixed with linear corridors. For that time, it was a nice mix of outside and inside, creates a feeling of a larger world. Due to the hardware limitations, the world is quite empty for today's standards. Outside of a few respawning enemies, there's no one else. Creates a proper feeling of the world's desolation, but lacks more population of any sort. Locations are full of secrets, like health upgrades and spells, or glyphs, as they're called here. Raziel unlocks new traversal options by defeating bosses, which can then be used to explore the world fully. Considering that the game doesn't have a character progression system, and it frankly doesn't need it, huge upgrades are the spells and Fire Reaver that can be found throughout the world. That's the reward for exploring, and it's a significant way of rewarding the player. One of the aspects where modern games have gone above and beyond with 3D graphics are the locations and the environment. Unfortunately, even with the updated textures, it's very outdated, sometimes even hard to look at. Even though great music, story and how the world looks creates a nice dark atmosphere, graphically outdated locations do hurt the game at this age. Especially because it seems like Raziel Remastered looks really good compared to everything around him being quite bland. Just too many bland, forgettable corridors. Conclusion is that the world is nicely structured, still manages to retain the dark atmosphere, but the remaster should have done much more with the locations and the environment, because it's too outdated to look at, especially compared to Raziel. Now we get to the painful part, which is the gameplay. It hurts me to criticize my beloved Soul Reaver, but the gameplay is rough. Definitely the part that has aged like milk. I was so annoyed so many times during the playthrough that I almost didn't finish the game. Controlling Raziel at times is infuriating. I figured out one of the reasons why. PlayStation 1 games had no precision input. It was black and white. You press a button, character does the exact thing with no finesse in between. So if you jump on a pillar and you didn't stop holding the button to move forward, the character is gonna take one full step forward as soon as he lands. So the goal is to jump while not pressing any movement buttons. Things like that. Hurts the game a lot that controls haven't been polished. Oh, and wait till you get to the swimming sections. I was losing it, I swear. It's impossible to control Raziel precisely, let alone fight. Bad controls destroyed small portions of the game that could have been quite cool, like the underwater one where Far River is found. Then the combat. Dodging is a pain in the ass. Enemies don't have any telegraph to their attacks, and Raziel needs to dodge on a correct side to not get hit, from what I understand, which ended up as me utilizing offense is the best defense tactic. Honestly, if combat was polished and improved, it could have been great, something like a more technical beat 'em up. But they left it as it was, it seems, and that is a mistake. Enemy hits sometimes connect, sometimes don't. The whole combat system is designed around tracking attacks. Dodge is good when you can control it, but it also gives random results too often. Though what's interesting is that there's a good impact to hits. Every hit can be seen on Raziel and the enemy. Weapons play a huge factor, next to Soul Reaver, on the combat outcome. I love the fact that enemies need to be dealt with specifically in order to die, whether by fire, impale or throwing them into the water. That freaking impale is so satisfying to this date. I don't know what it is with older games, but the ones with high kill satisfaction were much more frequent, it seems. Remember old Fallouts, Postal, Soldier of Fortune, Manhunt? Those are off the top of my head. It's one of the aspects that modern gaming needs to work on and finally move into more bloody and gory ways of dealing with enemies. Kill satisfaction is important. I shouldn't be so happy today with the impale mechanic of a game from 1999, but I am, because it's still good due to lack of progress in that department over the years. Of course, there are brutal games that surpass anything gaming has done before. I'm not blinded by my nostalgia or anything like that. It's just that there's too much kiddie graphics today with less and less blood and gore. Yes, I know it's mass marketing and ratings. It really screwed lots of us over out of some brilliant adult-only targeted games. Not those ones, you dirty bastards. Most of the time, however, Raziel is role-playing a wise vampire, solving puzzles left and right. Puzzles are a mixed bag. Most of them take way too long to do. Not because solving them is hard, but it takes so freaking long to push the blocks around. What's with so many puzzles anyway? Way too many. I get it, at that time with the world limitations they had to fill the games with such content, but damn if it doesn't get old too quickly to jump from one puzzle room to another, spending 20 minutes pushing blocks that you already figured the solution to. Some puzzles are fine, but a lot of them aren't. So I'm sad to say that in the gameplay department overall, even the expected Soul Reaver is subpar. What else is there to say? Music is still fantastic, but those abrupt changes could have been sorted in the remaster. There's an option with the press of a button to switch between 1999 and remaster look, which is really cool. I'm sad to say that I don't know who these remasters are for. Soul Reaver 1 Remaster isn't particularly well done anyway. Soul Reavers need a proper remake, not a remaster. If you want to experience the story yourself, go for it. If the nostalgia is calling you, go for it. But be prepared for a nice kick in the bollocks. I'll play the second Soul Reaver Remaster because this is a job in the end and I'm hooked story-wise, But if it wasn't for this channel, I think I'd skip it altogether and just read the story. As things stand, from a 2024 perspective, Soul Reaver 1 Remaster is for me 5 out of 10, a mediocre game. During its heyday it was the shit, but times have changed and remasters of old 3D games are pointless, it seems. Anyway, that's all. Thanks for watching and check out the description for other stuff like Patreon, subscribe, star, merch, blah blah blah.